lover of all things wedding related, and welcome to the Wedding Wisdom Podcast with your hosts, Tonya Hoops and Morgan Powell.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wedding Wisdom blog and podcast. I am here with my amazing co-host, Tonya. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
How are you surviving wedding season?
You know what? We're actually coming to the end, and I know people are like, wait, why are they like excited about that? But you know, wedding season, we do have quite busy time periods, and so sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a break. Yeah.
I always tell people it's just a different kind of busy.
It is. It is. We're busy always.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I get a break. And like our last wedding. So my last wedding is actually next weekend.
Okay.
Like in official wedding season. I have one in December, but next week is my last like official wedding in wedding season.
Yep.
Russ goes until November 1st is his. Okay. And then I was looking at it and I was like, oh, and then we start conference season. So we're going to Wedding MBA and then we've got a DJ conference and then we've got another. And I was like, great. I'm already in June of next year.
Yep.
In my brain.
That's how this works. So yeah, if anyone ever talks to us or you hear us and you think like we're feeling tired, there's a reason why. But.
I saw on social media, one of my friends, a DJ out of Pittsburgh, she posted a thing. She's like, check on your wedding vendor friends because it's the end of September or the beginning of September and none of us are doing okay. We're all just hanging on at this point.
Yeah, you've got kind of the claws just hanging on by the ends of a thread. Although I will say, as a planner, like because we usually have planned for months and months for a wedding, like when it comes to the wedding, yes, the execution is a really important point and we do double checks and triple checks on everything, but we're not usually quite at the clock point, you know.
Right. No, I mean, that's an interesting thing. Like, talk to me a little bit about, before we jump into everything, but talk to me a little bit about your, like, how far in advance are you usually working with couples as a planner?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It really depends on the couple. So sometimes we're a year to year and a half out, and sometimes we're 6 months to a year out. It just depends on, when they got engaged, when they want to get married. Destination and location can change that quite a bit too, because depending on the location, it might be a year before they can get a date of the time of year they want. So it can be all over the board, but I would say generally it's about a year out.
Very nice. That's cool. Yeah. So I'm sure like by the time you get to the wedding day, you're just as excited as they are to like see it all come together.
Yeah. You know, by the wedding day, it's like we've become friends. We've had all these conversations. We've done all this work together. And it's almost a weird feeling because they're a client. And yes, they've become friends, but they're going to go on with their life and, you go on to the next client. And it's weird sometimes because you're like, okay, Tuesday night at 5:00 was always the call with so-and-so because that's what time worked for both of us. And we usually, schedule a time out very early on and that's our time. Right. And so it becomes a little weird when it's like, oh, I don't have that call tonight because their wedding was last Saturday. And so, that does become a little strange.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. So yes, we are both surviving wedding season. It's Fall wedding season is one of my favorites, though.
Oh, it's just so beautiful. Well, especially in, we're based in Utah currently. And so, yes, it's really beautiful here where, in other locations, fall might not be the ideal spot, but there are some beautiful fall locations. I mean, New England in the fall, come on.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome. Let's jump in. I get to interview Tonya today, and I'm so excited. We get to learn a little bit about her and her philosophy and where she comes from, and a little bit of our background. Like she mentioned in my interview, we do think it's important that you guys know who we are, because at the end of the day, that informs our thought process and how we approach weddings and the advice that we're going to give you guys. We have a ton of experience between the two of us, but that really is an important thing so that you guys can know where we're coming from as we have these conversations. So let's start at the very beginning. Okay. As Julie Andrews says, it's a very good place to start.
Yes.
Tell us about how you got involved in weddings.
Well, I can blame my husband for that. So, very forthright is I was an executive at a company and was at a point where I just was not happy and was kind of trying to decide how I was going to maneuver. And we'd gotten married about 6 months before. And he said, you were really, really good at planning. why don't you just start a planning business? And so I considered it, and I decided to do a marketing and event company business because I had been in marketing world before. And so I thought, oh, this will be the perfect move. Well, someone asked me to do a wedding very soon after. And here I am 15 years later doing lots of weddings and corporate events. But that is really how it started.
I love that.
So, sometimes we say things start by a fluke, and I guess that, kind of is how it started. Someone gave me the nudge and push, and then from there, it just happened.
Well, and I love that you didn't anticipate being in weddings.
Nope, not at all.
And I think for a lot of wedding professionals, I hear that story over and over and over again, that they weren't necessarily looking for weddings, but it kind of came and surprised them how much they loved it. So that's really fun. Talk to us about your process. What is your philosophy in how you design and how you plan? Because as a planner, at least the ones that I've encountered, you guys wear a lot of different hats throughout the process.
We do. So, well, let's just start with what a planner really is. A planner is someone who is planning and helping you plan your wedding. And different planners do it differently. Some planners kind of take over and just they are kind of in charge of everything, which planner really is. But our philosophy is it is your wedding. It is about you. It's about you as a couple. It's about you as a family. And so for us, it's important that we start the process by getting to know you a little bit, because if we don't know you and don't know what you love, then it's hard to incorporate that into the wedding, unless you're just telling us, oh, we love to bike, so put bikes in the wedding. I mean, we need to know that kind of, those kind of items, right?
Yeah.
And so really our philosophy is that it's all about you. It's your wedding. And so we're going to start by learning about you, and then we do a wedding planning timeline, and then we do every single detail with you. So from finding your photographer to whether it's a band or a DJ, your ceremony music, what food are we eating? So we do all of those aspects of the wedding. And yes, we do a design board for the couple. Now, one way we are different is that I truly believe a planner needs to be a planner. And so what that means is they are the one that is a logistical person. They know who the players are, whether it's in a Utah market, whether it's in a market in, Greece, or whether it's in a market in Italy. You know who the players are, and you know who's right for your couple. And that doesn't mean there's one right person for your couple. There might be two or three, and then you help guide them so they can choose which of those photographers are actually the right photographer for them.
Yeah.
And then from there, the things like the rentals, the design and decor, yes, we put a proposal together, but if you want a full-blown production, then really we bring in a design partner.
Oh, I love
with that. Yep. Because your planner really focuses on the logistical pieces and making sure that day is absolutely perfect. And yes, they do have the vision, but then the producer, if it's a very large scale wedding, will be someone different. So that's in a very high level how we work.
Oh, I love that. It's interesting, at least here in Utah, you don't see that a lot.
Right.
A lot in our market is kind of a planner designer combo.
Right.
So I really love that. And
yes, we do design work quite a bit. And so a planner does have to have a very keen design eye. But we play all over the world. And so for that reason, we have all different levels of clients. And so for that reason, it's important for us to be able to know that, a client maybe that's doing a wedding in Italy, we might be having a production manager to do that wedding. A client that maybe is doing a mountain wedding for 25 intimate guests, they don't need a production manager. And so that's where we would do that piece for them.
Well, and I love that. I buffered. I apologize. But we see a lot here that they really lean heavy into the design aspect, and a lot of them miss that planning aspect. They're not necessarily as strong in the logistics of it all. And do you talk a little bit about your guys' philosophy? Do you go through the other vendors' contracts? How do you build those partnerships?
Oh, yes. And the reason I say that is because the client has booked us to make sure their wedding is correct, make sure their wedding is the vision that they want, make sure that we can help guide them, and also take the stress off of them. Planning a wedding can be so stressful. I mean, even with a planner, I hear, I have seen fights happen between mothers and daughters. I've seen between partners on the phone, things happen that you don't want to have happen. And that's really where we are the buffer. We come in and say, okay, let's make a decision that works for both of you.
Yeah.
Or, you know what, I know that, you know, mom, you really want roses because in your time that was so traditional, but bride really wants tulips and peonies, you know, making that up, of course, because every couple is very different. And so for that reason, making sure that we are guiding them and helping them along that process. And so really we take on all that pieces, negotiating contracts. Sorry, I kind of sidebarred trying to get to the right answer.
Great. You're great.
But we look at the contracts because it's important to understand what's in those contracts, what's not in those contracts, so that they know how that plays into their budget and also how that plays into what that exact contract looks like. So for instance, if you are hiring a photographer and your day is 15 hours and you want full coverage from beginning to end, and you've hired a photographer with a 10-hour package, it doesn't work. That photographer is going to either add on, you know, to do the 15 hours, which is fine, but we need to do that ahead of time, or at least do it before we get to the day when they're not prepared to do that. And so those are the kind of things that we point out to people, that we say, wait, I thought you wanted full coverage.
Right.
So if this is what you want, this is what we're looking at. This is the prices we're looking at. So we go through all those details with them.
Oh, that's so great. I love too that as a planner, you're a third party, non-emotionally involved person. So, I mean, speaking from experience, sometimes when you're emotionally invested in something, you can't see all of the details really clearly. So it's really helpful, I think, to have a planner that is removed and can look at it objectively.
Yeah, because if you find, let's say for instance, and we're going to talk about this when we talk about budgeting, but if you find a venue that you absolutely love, like you walk on site and you're like, oh, this is like the absolute perfect venue for me, just based on the look and feel. And then you haven't gone through and said, okay, do I have to have preferred vendors here? What are the prices of those preferred vendors? What do they include, tables and chairs, or do I have to rent those in? Those are all things that play into the budget. And so those are things where we can kind of stop those emotions and say, okay, you love this venue. Why do you love the venue? Does it fit within your budget? Does it fit within everything you're looking for? Are you willing to compromise something to have this? And so that's where a planner can come into place, and really a good planner will guide you and say, I know you love this venue, but is this really the right venue for you?
Right. That's amazing.
Okay.
So with that, last two questions.
Yes.
First, tell us about your favorite wedding experience, your best wedding experience, or maybe like a cautionary tale to some people.
Oh, yeah. Those are great questions.
That was all one, by the way. So
yeah, so
you've
we'll
got
have to
another
figure
one
out
coming.
which one I'm doing. Okay, so let me start by, there's so many great experiences that I have had at weddings, but I think one of the things, I'm just going to use kind of an emotional moment. So when one of the couple or both of the couple walk down the aisle and their face lights up and I see that's the moment where it's just like, you know, this is just that pure gold moment of just joy. And I'm experiencing that joy with the couple. The couple never realize I'm experiencing that joy because they're focused on what they should be, which is each other, which is their families. But for me, that's that moment where all of the hard work have come together. And it's not only just in that moment, a lot of times we'll do a room reveal.
Yes.
So what that means is like whatever we've decided to set up as decor and design in that room, like they've been busy getting hair and makeup done or photos throughout the day, and so they haven't seen the setup actually take place. And so when they walk in that room and they light up and they're like, it's just what I wanted, or it's even better than I wanted, those are the moments as a planner that I just find pure joy in. And sometimes when, you know, the business is hard, it's a hard business to be in. When it's hard, you remember those moments of like, you know, it is worth it in the end when you see those moments.
Amen to that. It is. So last question.
Yep.
Why wedding wisdom?
Yeah, so why wedding wisdom? So being a planner, there are so many times that I see things or I hear things where someone has made a decision for their wedding that actually has derailed the wedding. Meaning, like we talked about with the venue, you know, they fell in love with the venue, they signed the contract, they didn't read the fine lines. I often hear people say, and not to me, not with the planning process, but I hear it kind of out in articles and out in kind of the universe, if you will, that, weddings are more expensive, that you say wedding and they automatically slap more money on, that you, that there's a lot of hidden costs in contracts. And I've never found a contract that has hidden costs in it. It's in there or it's not in there. I think what happens a lot is like, let's say that you didn't ask the venue, do you cut our cake for free? Or is there like a $5 charge per person to cut that cake, which can happen. And if you don't read through that and understand that, then that gets you into trouble. And I think that everybody should have the wedding that they want. Now,
Yes.
I say that with a grain of salt, because if you want a $250,000 wedding and you can afford a $25,000 wedding, that's not going to happen, right?
I mean, we are talented, but we're not magicians.
Not that talented. You know what? I tell people prices are prices. I can't change Morgan's price. I can ask her to negotiate, which we do at times, but I can't change her prices. I can't change the caliber of work. And so, but what I can do is I can say, okay, based on your budget, what is the most important thing to you? And how do we make that piece happen and make everything else work around that piece? And, you know, sometimes people give me multiple answers. So why wedding wisdom from all of that is it's so that we can give advice to people and we can say, look, you can do that destination wedding with 25 guests, not 50 guests. You can do that wedding in the mountains, but here's what it's going to take to do it. And so we need to really think about, you know, do we need a tent? Do we not need a tent? The rain, backup plans, all of those kind of things. So I'm excited to share all those things with people. Also, planners, I mean, I love what I do, but a really good planner is worth their weight in gold, and they should cost what they're worth. And so for that reason, not everyone can afford a planner, and that's okay. But all these years of advice, how about sharing that advice with people? How about letting someone who can't afford a planner, doesn't want a planner, be able to plan without having all of that stress? And so we will be doing documents at times that you can download, and other ones that you can buy, but for not a outrageous price, so that you can be able to build that wedding of your dreams.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Such a great reason. And I think amazing to be able to give back, because there are a lot of couples that have no idea. I joke often and will make the comment that, you know, we live in a very casual world, generally speaking now. And yet when you're in your 20s, 30s, we're asking you to throw the biggest party of your entire life with no understanding of what it actually takes to do it.
Right. No understanding of the time that it takes, the amount of items that you're going to need to accomplish for that. I mean, I will tell people, like, our timelines, like, usually a minimum of like 150 to 200 line items. And they're like, well, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, that's how many items you just kind of at a minimum we plan. Yeah. And, you know, some of them might be very simple line items, like, you know, make sure you have a sitter for your dog. But those are things you have to think about that when you're in high stress, you don't. Right. And so that's why I think it's important to share this with people. And also, we're going to tell a few stories along the way too. So I could write probably 6 books on stories that have happened at weddings. And why would we tell those stories? Because there are stories that have actually happened. It's because we don't want them to happen to you. So whether it's from a family situation, whether it's from the budget situation, whether it's from, you know, not creating a backup plan, like things that do happen. And so by thinking through these things, or being able to let things roll off your back, like, how do you work through these things?
Yes. And names and places will all be changed to protect the...
Yes, we will never share a story of a client ever, and put someone's name with it, or even the exact location.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Welcome.
I am so excited about this endeavor and to get things going and to share all of this amazing advice with you, the viewers. Make sure that you subscribe, follow us wherever you're listening to your podcasts. We're on YouTube, and we have the blog as well for written content if that is more your speed.
Yep. And the written content also has things like links to great vendors. So
yes,
it's a great place to go.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. We hope that we see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Wedding Wisdom Podcast with your hosts, Tonya Hoops and Morgan Powell. To keep up to date with the latest episodes, like, subscribe, and follow at Wedding Wisdom Blog on all social media platforms. To submit content, please email weddingwisdomblog@gmail.com.